Hi everybody, Dan Illman, Matt Berner. You're kicking off the 50-cent late pick 5 at the Great Race Place Santa Anita on Saturday with race number 5, the Grade 2 Kona Gold Stakes at 6.5 furlongs. You can bet this pick 5 wager or the entire card. No matter how you want to play it, you do it with DRF Bets, because when you deposit $100, you bet with $250. Learn more at bets.drf.com. Let's meet the field getting set to go 6.5 furlongs for $200,000 in the Grade 2 Kona Gold Stakes. Several horses coming out of the Grade 2 San Carlos Stakes. Let's begin with the number 1, Dr. Door for Bob Baffert, your 9-5 morning line favorite. He was returning off a lengthy layoff in the San Carlos, and he was out-sprinted early as he was turning back drastically in distance. He shot on through inside. I thought he finished the game second. Personally, Matt, I thought Bob was using this race as a springboard to something longer, but he appears he is comfortable with Dr. Door as a sprinter right now.
I agree. I figured it was nothing more than a means to an end to get him to a race that was going to eventually be 2 turns, hopefully out to 1 1/8 or even longer, 1 1/4. Instead, they actually cut back slightly in distance to 6.5 furlongs. The interesting thing about the San Carlos, I think it depends on which side of the aisle you land on. A 90 Beyer speed figure, but a raw 121 Timeform US rating. That's the highest in the entire field. And usually if there's about a 20-point differential, that would mean that the Timeform rating would mean that the Beyer would be closer to a 101. If that's the case, boy, you're looking at a giant fig for both he and Kentaka. I'm just a little bit concerned, as I was going into that San Carlos, about the running style of those 2 horses.
And we'll talk about the pace situation in a moment. Let's get to my son, Kentaka. You know I love him. I've always liked him as a late-running sprinter. I really thought he would get the job done last time out in the Grade 2 San Carlos, even though he had missed a couple of months. And he was just out-sprinted early, and that was a race where you correctly predicted that St. Jobé would control the pace, and St. Jobé bounded away to a clear lead. Kentaka, he came a long way around, let's say, as Dr. Door saved ground. He must have swung 5 wide into the stretch, but I have to admit, I thought he would have run a little bit better. And maybe he needed the race. Now second off the layoff, that's been a very good angle for Jerry Hollendorfer in the past with dirt sprinters in graded stakes races. But where's the pressure coming from the speed in this race? Isn't it a similar situation as the San Carlos?
I was really hopeful that they would send him to Churchill Downs for the Churchill Downs race here in a couple weeks, where it's 7/8 of a mile, and maybe just I keep maintaining that I don't think Southern California is good for a horse like this. When you come from so far off of it and you're void of early speed, you're just going to be up against it so many times, and you may be the best horse in the race. But if the circumstances don't present themselves for you and things aren't advantageous, I don't care how good you are. You just need to be 15 times better than anybody else. Now, look, in a race like this, it's a short field, and I don't think the field is quite as good. I don't think there are any St. Jobés in this race. And say what you will about St. Jobé. It's not like he's been a world beater in the past, but I think he's better than what you're looking at speed-wise in this race. Kentaka, he has every right to run well in here and win. I'm just still concerned about this racetrack at Santa Anita.
Let's talk about Baffert's other runner in this race, Zatter, who is no match for Dr. Door or Kentaka in the San Carlos Stakes. 2 questions for you about Zatter. Is he entered in here merely to make the race go, or is he entered in here to maybe provide some pace pressure to Sistron, thus helping his uncoupled stablemate, Dr. Door?
Yeah, I think it could be possibly both of those things, where you got a short field no matter what. You enter and make sure the race goes, and then also on the flip side, you've got the ability to potentially be forwardly placed. The problem is, it doesn't seem like Zatter. Look, he was supposed to be a really nice horse early on, and then he went away. He was on the sidelines for quite some time. He hasn't bounced back. I think it's interesting to hear that Drayden Van Dyke has the mount here. Joe Talamo is on Dr. Door. Maybe you're just aggressive with this horse. You send him and you just ride him as hard as possible to try to push a horse like Sistron, or if All Out Blitz wants to be forwardly placed. But boy, based on what he looks like he's been recently, I just don't see him getting it done.
Let's throw up the Timeform US pace projector for this race. And when I envisioned you handicapping this race last night, I could see you saying this is a carbon copy of the San Carlos. I liked St. Jobé. He's going to be loose on the lead. The 2 best horses in this race, the 2 favorites in this race, are closers. Who's the speed? And the likely speed is going to be Sistron, who has spent most of his career running on the turf, but he does have that 1 big stakes win on dirt. He's got to get to the lead in here, right?
Well, look, if he doesn't make the front, something clearly went wrong, because to me, he is the speed nearest the rail. There is no other real speed, and Timeform US tends to agree with that, with the blue bar, and there's no one within a little bit of him. And all three of his victories to date have come in gate-to-wire fashion. Now, perhaps this distance isn't what he wants to do at this point in his career, but there is the part of me that looks at it and says there's not going to be a better situation or a better scenario for a horse like Sistron to win a graded stakes race anymore. I don't think. You go out there, you clear to the front, and you say, come and catch me. It's the same connections all around. It's the same ownership, same trainer. I think you try to do the exact same thing you did with St. Joe Bay.
Pretty sure that's what Victor Espinoza has in mind with Sistron. This horse has 20 and change speed going down the hill. He doesn't have to go that fast to make the lead in the San Carlos. All Out Blitz is the number 3. And if you don't like the horses coming out of the San Carlos, and if you're worried about Sistron's long losing streak, I mean, he hasn't won a race since the Northern Spur of 2017, then you're going to land on All Out Blitz, a horse that's won 2 out of his last 3 races, and I thought looked pretty good last time out at Sunland Park. He carried ground every step of the way. He must have been 4 wide. He just kept right on going and got the job done, earning a co-best 93 Buyer's speed figure. He might need to run a little bit faster in this race, but I think in the form he's in right now, he fits and he can be close. If Sistron doesn't stay the 6.5, All Out Blitz gets the jump on everybody else.
To me, he's the kind of horse where if you think the price is going to be too short on Kanthaka, you don't love Dr. Door, and you don't trust Sistron, I think you kind of default into a horse like All Out Blitz, and that's not a bad thing. I think he sits the trip in here. You know this distance isn't a problem. You know he's in good form. I think in many ways, if you get that 4-to-1 morning line, look, there's nothing wrong with that.
I agree. I think that offers good value. Let's take a look at our top picks for this race. You're going pace makes the race. Sistron going gate to wire. You're going to try to equal your excellent selection of St. Joe Bay. And of course, I'm going back to the well with Kanthaka. He's my son. I'm hoping that maybe Zatter can put some pressure on Sistron. Maybe All Out Blitz can put some pressure on Sistron. I'm still waiting for Kanthaka to run back to that San Vicente or the Palos Verdes. I still think there's something there for him, but I'm also wondering if time's running out to actually fulfill that potential. Kanthaka's my top pick. I'm going 5-3-1. You like Sistron? Give me numbers.
2-5-3-1.
Fun race, the Grade 2 Kona Gold. Remember, it kicks off a 50-cent late pick 5 at Santa Anita. It's a bet that you can play with a DRF Bets account. Sign up at bets.drf.com. Deposit $100, bet with $250. DRF Bets. Ready, set, bet. Approximate post time for the Kona Gold, 3 o'clock Pacific. Best of luck.